What's up, T&V fam? Welcome back to T&V Nation. It's your girl, Tawana.
And your boy, Vaughn. Y'all know what day it is.
Mental Health Monday.
We back with another Mental Health Monday episode.
Right.
This one was requested by a fellow YouTuber and subscriber. So they wanted us to talk about, y'all saw the title. We're going to be talking about bipolar disorder. But first, we're going to get into this meal.
Yes, we're going to be eating some good food, y'all.
So the queen promised y'all she was going to start bringing the Cajun, bringing the Creole.
I got it for you today, honey.
So what you made for us, baby?
I made some shrimp Creole with some turkey sausage. I put a little bit of turkey sausage in it. It's not traditionally made with sausage, but I have a family member who is allergic to shellfish. So I typically will make it with the sausage, take hers out, and then add the shrimp. And I have some sweet peas here, and we have some Hawaiian rolls, and this is one of my favorite Louisiana Cajun dishes. All of them are my favorite. So we gonna dig in, honey.
And we about to get it in.
Yeah, we gonna get it in, honey.
Have I had your shrimp Creole?
Yeah, I made it before. So you have definitely had it. I only made it once before.
Smells good.
I don't make Cajun food that often because, like I said, most of it is made with shellfish. So when I do, I make a alternative version. But it's still good. I do the same with my crawfish etouffee. Jambalaya, I'll do chicken and sausage and then put the seafood in at the end, which you do anyway. So. It's smoking hot, y'all.
It's good.
Yeah.
So y'all know what we're gonna ask.
Look at one of them big pretty shrimp right there, y'all.
Shrimps. What we gonna ask?
Just wanted to show y'all that. What y'all eating today? Let us know. I know y'all eating something good on this Monday. And what types of food do y'all eat on Mondays? Monday is like a day. It's Monday. You're recovering from the weekend and you're getting back to your routine, maybe work. So, I don't know. What do y'all eat? We hardly ever eat out on a Monday, huh? We usually eat something cooked. What y'all eat? Let us know. What y'all eating today and what do y'all usually eat on Mondays?
Monday is like one of them days where you almost need an excuse to eat out. Because you don't have the whole weekend to make something. At least for us. I mean, I know there are some families where they eat out most nights.
It's so good. That's true, which is fine. And on the weekend, families who cook a lot during the week and eat out on the weekend, it's like you've been eating out all weekend. You want a home cooked meal come Monday. So that's kind of what we do.
That's what we do.
It's so delicious, y'all. So good.
So what kind of Cajun or Creole dishes do y'all want us to eat?
Yeah. Because I'm going to be making more.
What else you going to make?
I'm going to make a crawfish etouffee, a jambalaya, crawfish casserole, maybe crawfish bisque, gumbo, maybe a pasta jambalaya. Of course, seafood boil, but also... We don't call it that. We call it just boiled seafood. I'm saying that because we also do boiled meat, which is like a seafood, which is cooked in the same way the seafood is cooked, but it's like turkey necks, neck bones, that kind of thing.
You eat neck bones?
I just eat turkey neck.
Why we be eating animal necks?
I don't know, but I eat the neck of the turkey. But I don't eat no other neck bones or no neck.
So when people just say neck bones, is that pork or is that beef? I haven't eaten that since I was a kid, so I don't remember.
Whose neck is it? I don't know whose neck it is.
Somebody who didn't give their neck willingly.
So let me know, y'all, if y'all have any favorite Cajun dishes. Of course, red beans and rice. We do a seafood stew, which is different because it's made with like a kind of a brown roux, kind of like the gumbo, but not quite. So there are lots of different dishes. So let me know what y'all want me to make. And also, if y'all want to see the recipes, we can do that too sometime.
So is there anything she didn't name that y'all want to see?
Yeah. Put it down below if it's something I didn't name. Crawfish boil, when it come back in season, y'all will be seeing that.
Don't get us started talking about that.
I'm getting this right.
She get competitive over here. Y'all heard her talking the other night. About that mess.
It's so good. Delicious. Now, when I was growing up, I didn't eat a lot of shrimp Creole at home. My mom cooked it occasionally, but what she would do is typically she would do a shrimp etouffee instead of a crawfish etouffee, because some in my family they don't really like the tomato-based red gravy, which is what the shrimp Creole is. I've always liked it. Some people don't like it. You just have to know how to cook it so that it doesn't taste like too much of a tomato-y taste. But that's what you're going for. You want a tomato taste combined with the seafood Cajun taste. So it has to be cooked right. But my mom didn't really like that. So like I said, she would make a shrimp etouffee, or she would make a shrimp stew, which would be more of a roux.
That's a brown?
Yeah, it's a brown thing.
I wonder if there's a connection between the Caribbean brown stew chicken and the Creole stew.
Yeah, I wonder.
Shrimp stew.
So it's all good to me. But if you don't really like the tomato-based red gravy, you could do a stew, which is very similar. You're just making a roux instead of a gravy.
What is a roux?
It's basically just cooked flour with whatever your spices are until you get the desired. You cook it until you get the desired like color and texture that you want.
So what's the difference between a roux and a gravy?
A gravy is just sauce. You're not cooking it down with flour. So you want your gravy. Some people like really soupy gravies. Some like thicker gravies. And you can get a thicker gravy cooking it longer without having to add flour. You can add a little flour to thicken it up. But when you're making a roux, you are cooking this flour into the butter until you get, like I said, the desired color and texture. With the gravy, you don't do that. If you want to thicken it up, you might add a little gravy afterwards at some point.
A little flour?
I'm sorry, the flour. Or you just keep letting it cook. That's the thing. That's what I do. Cook it down. It takes, if you want to get the right flavor, let all those flavors marry together and get the right consistency, you want to cook it down for a while. So, we better talk about our topic because you run out of food.
I was just about to say that. I'm over here eating while you talking. So y'all ready to talk about bipolar disorder? We talked about bipolar disorder when we talked about Kanye.
Oh, yeah.
So what do we say differently tonight?
I don't know because I remember what we talked about. Oh, yeah, we talked a lot about it because we talked about some symptoms of bipolar disorder. We talked about depressive episodes and mania, what that looks like.
So let's talk about managing bipolar disorder.
Well, you might still want to just briefly go over. Maybe I might not seen that video.
We need to go see it.
Just briefly talk about what distinguishes bipolar disorder from just your typical moodiness.
All right.
Just a little bit, and then managing it.
I'll let you eat. Okay, y'all. So just to give a brief overview of what bipolar disorder is. So basically what we call unipolar depression is a clinical level of depression. So that's where you have, I got to talk about this because depression is part of bipolar disorder. It's one of the poles of bipolar disorder. So with depression, and again, we already warned y'all, we don't say someone's depressed when they just sad or a little down or whatever. It's a whole set of symptoms that the person has to have, that they have them for a certain amount of time, and they need to interfere with your ability to live life, basically. So you might have general sadness, you may be irritable, your mood is what we call dysphoric, where your mood is basically down. Like you lack motivation. It's hard for you to like get up and get going and do what you need to do, or you just may not even be motivated to do what you need to do. Low energy, problems with sleep. The problems with sleep could be you're unable to sleep, or you're oversleeping. You're sleeping too much, sleeping way more often and many more hours than you're used to. There are problems with the appetite, which could be you have no appetite, you just don't feel like eating anymore, or you could be overeating. Difficulty concentrating and remembering things. You know, you have that brain fog. The person may have thoughts of suicide, or just thoughts of death. You know, I'd be better off dead, or everybody else would be better off if I was dead. A sense of hopelessness and feeling worthless. So those are the common symptoms of depression. So someone with bipolar disorder is going to have major depressive episodes, and then they swing sometimes into what we call manic episodes. Those manic episodes consist of having a lot of, just high energy. Because of that high energy, they may not sleep. And so they have sleep problems, but it's for a different reason than the depressive insomnia. So they're not sleeping, but it's because they're not getting sleepy. They're just so full of energy, and they may stay up the whole night and still be full of energy. So whereas when someone is depressed and they don't sleep, they're going to feel it the next day. They're going to feel that, those days and days of having difficulty sleeping. The person who's in a manic episode, they feel like they don't need sleep. They have a lot of racing thoughts and ideas. Oftentimes those ideas are grandiose. So thoughts like, it's too late to run for president, but I'm going to run for president anyway, and even hold a whole campaign rally. I don't have a high school diploma, but I'm going to be a PhD by this time next year. So ideas like that are just unrealistic. Just really lofty goals that can't be accomplished in the way or in the time that they say they're going to do it. Did I say having lots of energy? Yeah, having lots of energy. Some impulsive behaviors. A lot of risk taking. The risk taking could be, spending up all the money. So the impulsivity and the risk taking kind of go together. So emptying out that bank account, going on a shopping spree, having lots of sex with people they don't know. Gambling, fighting, putting themselves in risky situations. Did I miss something?
No, I think you pretty much touched everything. The way that I tried to help my patients understand bipolar disorder without being too clinical, because sometimes it's hard to remember all those symptoms. So they're like my husband said, they are polar opposites. Okay, you going from one end of the pole to the other. So with your depressive episode, think about everything being slowed down. My thoughts are slower. My body movements are slower. The body may even feel heavy. The speech may be slower. The energy is low. It's taking me longer to get things done. Everything is wanting to shut down with the depressive episode. The manic episode is the opposite. Think everything being sped up. Now my thoughts are sped up. Now my energy is sped up. Now my behavior is erratic and sped up. I'm trying to do more than I can actually handle. So one is where my body, my mind, everything is sped up, and then the other is everything is shut down. And you're going from one to the other. And that's the true meaning of a bipolar disorder. And, one important thing to know is that it doesn't necessarily have to be triggered by something going on in your life. Like with the general moodiness, sometimes when people make comments about, oh, so-and-so is bipolar, usually the moody person, their mood changes because it's precipitated by something. And that can definitely happen with the bipolar person as well. But sometimes it's not an identifiable stressor or problem or life circumstance. It's just biochemical changes that are taking place within the brain that need to be stabilized. And so that's pretty much it, yeah.
So let's talk about how to manage that if you are a person who has bipolar disorder. And the first thing I always cover with clients, because I always catch people saying this, you have bipolar disorder. You are not bipolar. And so, a lot of times we have to help our clients to not have their illness be their identity. People don't, we've talked about this in previous videos, but people don't say I'm cancer or I'm cancerous. But with mental health illnesses, for some reason, I'm OCD, I'm bipolar, all this kind of stuff. No, I have bipolar disorder. You have an illness, you have a condition. And just like if you had diabetes, it has to be managed. How you manage it depends on how severe it is at a given moment. So sometimes there are folks who have bipolar disorder that don't even take medication. There are some folks that they would not be able to survive if they didn't take medication.
Yeah.
And so it's an individual thing.
The severity.
And there are folks who it's managed in whatever way they manage it. And we're going to go through some of those ways in a minute, but it's managed in whatever way they manage it, and they're just living their lives. They don't have to see anybody. They don't have to, they just take care of themselves and, live a healthy lifestyle or whatever. There are others who they need to see a therapist pretty regularly. Maybe they're in a hospital-based outpatient program, things like that. And every now and then they may need to go into the hospital. But, the most important thing is being able to recognize what's going on with your condition right now, and based on that, what do I need?
Right.
So let's talk about some what you might call low-level stuff. First of all, I believe very strongly diet and exercise are important. All the things that we talk about when we talk about taking care of yourself, self-care, those are important. Making sure you have time to get enough sleep. Making sure that you have, especially if sleep is an issue, you may need to go through some kind of sleep hygiene program. And by program, all I mean is, these are things you can look up on Google and just find out, how do I need to structure my bedtime and all that kind of stuff so that I get some good sleep. Regular exercise, eating a healthy diet. And we're not going to get into what healthy diet means in this video. Also, surrounding yourself with healthy people. So basically managing your environment so that it's as healthy as it can be. So, trying to avoid stress. Now, of course, you're going to have stressful situations, but minimizing the stress by not involving yourself in toxic relationships and all that kind of stuff. Managing your illness could also mean, so let's move up just a little bit. Maybe you attend a support group. So there are support groups for people who are dealing. There are those that are specific to bipolar disorder, and then there are some general ones. Like if you're dealing with any kind of mental illness, this is a support group. They exist in person and exist online, whatever the case may be. After that, we got therapy. So your regular once a week, go see my therapist for an hour, or once a week, or every 2 weeks, whatever it is you agree on with your therapist. That would be the next level after the support group. After that, we got that hospital-based outpatient program I told you about. And that's split into two types. You got your intensive outpatient program, or IOP, and then your partial hospitalization program, PHP. It's basically the same program. It's just in the PHP, you spend more time. So it could be that you go every day from 9 a.m. to noon, or it may be that you go 3 days a week from 9 a.m. to 3 or something like that. I don't know what the hours are. Like what you know about all that, but like the requirement for the number of hours you got to be there for it to be an IOP versus a PHP, it's a longer program if it's a PHP, but it's the same programming. You're in group all day basically. You back-to-back groups with breaks in between, and that's more intensive than seeing your therapist once a week, obviously, because you're in groups all day long. After that, you got inpatient hospitalization. So I think it's important for anyone with a severe mental illness to also have a support system, whether that's family, friends, whoever, and talk over, come up with a plan with your support system. Because a lot of times what happens is, especially when the person starts going into a manic episode, others will recognize things before they do. And it feels good. I've heard that so many times. It feels good. I don't want this to stop, so I'm not going to tell anybody. And then by the time they notice themselves, it's too late. And so it's important to come up with a plan for how can I tell I'm going into a manic episode, and what do I do at the moment I notice it or someone else calls it to my attention. What do I do if I'm all the way to, I come home and I tell my significant other, I just emptied out our bank account. Or I'm seeing things, or whatever. It might mean you need to go to the hospital. It might mean you stopped seeing your therapist 3 months ago. It's time to go back. It just depends on how severe it is at that moment. But it's important to have a plan and for your intervention to match the severity of what's going on at the moment. Talking again about your support system, it's important that those people learn about bipolar disorder and really understand it. Because what you really don't want is those family members who, every time you get a little excited, they're like, are you manic? You going into a manic episode? You been taking your medication? Like that kind of stuff really, that's not helpful. The have you been taking your medication question is really not helpful. Because people with depression or people with bipolar disorder do get sad. I mean, someone dies in the family, or I just lost my job. Something happens where anybody would get sad. That doesn't mean they're going into a depressive episode. They're excited because they just got a promotion, or they got that tax return back, or whatever. That doesn't mean they're manic. So learning to tell the difference for yourself, first of all, and then helping your support system understand the difference.
I'm doing my food.
You've
been running your mouth. Yeah, all that is so important, y'all. And one of the things that you mentioned, extremely important, to have your support system be involved in any type of treatment that you do receive, so that they understand your red flags. Everybody's red flags might look a little different. They need to understand bipolar disorder, and they need to understand what bipolar disorder looks like for you. What do you look like when you're depressed? When you're getting more depressed, what do you look like when you're maybe becoming manic? It could be very subtle signs that may not be the case with everyone, but it's specific for you. For instance, the spending thing. Maybe you're not someone who shops a lot, and then they notice all these Amazon packages been coming in every day, like what's going on? Something as simple as that could be a red flag. Not that, okay, this person's already manic, but something to keep my eye on. Red flag, right? Kind of the first sign of unusual behaviors, which is another thing that I would tell, my families, that I would educate. Any behaviors that are unusual for your family, for your loved one. If you know they're normally quiet and withdrawn, and now they're a social butterfly, and they going out every day, and they're staying up all night, and they're normally in bed by 10, and they don't really drink that much, but now they're drinking a lot. Those are signs, those are red flags that something might be going on. So it might be worth having a conversation with that person. But also, if you have a bipolar disorder, this is so important too, y'all. Yeah, when you're depressed, it don't feel good. You know you're depressed, you know something wrong. Like my husband said, when you're manic, it actually feels good. You're elated, you're euphoric, you feel on top of the world, you're a little bit grandiose and full of yourself, let's be real. So you don't feel like anything's wrong. You have to have a safe person that you trust. And that's why talking about it in advance is so important, having a plan. And you have to be willing in those moments to suspend your own thoughts and judgment and rely on someone else's in that moment. And that can be really hard for some folks, because especially when they're manic and they don't want to relinquish control and they feel like they're fine. But I would always remind them, this is your safe person. This is the person you trust. This is the person who wants you to be well, who wants you to be okay. If they see something unusual and they suggest you maybe talk to your therapist, doctor, whoever, trust their judgment. That's so, so important. And another thing, like my husband said, there are different severities of bipolar disorder. Bipolar 1 and bipolar 2. Bipolar 1 disorder tends to be very severe at some point. And if it gets to a point where you can't manage it on your own, typically with bipolar 1, you cannot manage it on your own. You need some professional help. Bipolar 2 is a lesser severe, where you don't become fully manic, you become a little, hypomanic, and so it's more manageable. So talk to your doctor about that as well. Get a clear diagnosis and understanding of what it is that you have, just so you'll know, and you can take the right steps in getting the care that you need. And just know it's like, like I tell, my clients and the families that I've worked with, it's an illness like any other illness. If other organs in our bodies can start to have problems and shut down, we can develop cancers and diabetes and all of these things. The mind can also start to get sick. So yeah, it's no different than any other type of illness, and it's okay. There's stigma, yes, but the more we educate, the more we accept that mental illness is real, then I think the less stigma there will be eventually. It's going to take some time to get there, but eventually that's the goal, to destigmatize it.
I also want to put out there for folks who may have been hospitalized more than one time, or been to, different psychiatrists, different therapists, different programs, and you have this list of diagnoses. I would recommend that you sit down with your current treatment provider. Let's start with one, and ask, what is my diagnosis? Because first of all, if they're not sharing how they've diagnosed you, then that's questionable. But you have a right to know. But anyway, I've seen so many patients who rattle off this list of diagnoses, and it becomes clear to me as they're doing that, oh, you've been to a bunch of different places, and they probably gave you maybe you've been to different places over several years, and every time you go somewhere they give you a different diagnosis, and now you think you have all of this. Some of those things you can't even have. Like, you named two things and you couldn't have both of them. It's not possible. So, I just think it's important to find out, what is my diagnosis.
What else?
I think we covered it all.
I think so too. If y'all have any specific questions about bipolar disorder that we did not answer, leave it in the comments below. I feel like this was kind of a lot, and it was some of it was kind of clinical. I understand that. So if you have just a general question or a scenario or something like that, our email is in our description. You can email us if you want to ask a more specific question about a specific type of scenario or whatever. Feel free to do that. Or if you have questions about anything that we said and you need more clarification about it, or it sounds a little confusing, reach out. We don't mind giving you a little bit more information on it.
Yeah, that's a good point, because there might be something you want to say or ask and you don't want to put it in the comments. So yeah, email us. Email address is right here, and it's down in the description. I have to be careful where I point, y'all, because I've noticed that
You're pointing at me.
I'll say I'm gonna put it right here, and then I get to editing and there's no room right here, so I end up. So that's why I pointed over here. It's gonna be between us.
gonna be somewhere.
It's gonna be somewhere on the screen, and you'll see it.
We been doing.
We done talking. We done eating. Y'all know what that means. It's time to close it out. How did Bill Cosby used to close out the picture pages?
I don't remember that.
I don't know why that popped in my head, y'all. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't. Hit that notification bell. Thumbs up this video. Go watch some of our other videos. As a matter of fact, go ahead and run one of our playlists. If you like Mental Health Monday, go to our mental health playlist and just watch all them videos. Share this video
With everybody.
with the whole world. And we will see y'all on the next one. T&V Nation out.
Bye.